garden, and her fingernails were so dirty, but she just loved working in her garden. There's something to learn, and you get to talk to others. Now that answer came from someone who's really, really shy, and this person really came out of her shell. You know, she was going down to work in her plot and was, you know, talking with other people there. So that was a big step for her. It's helping to forget the tragedies of war. It brings us happiness. You can guess who that's from. And then the last answer, my wife likes to garden and I like to eat the fruits of her labor. Of her tulips, and she just wanted to share that with everybody. And one thing that I find is community garden sort of, it created a sense of ownership, pride, and dignity for the participants, and the dignity part to me was very important. And so for her to share that, and when I would visit the garden, people were always calling me over, you know, come see my flowers, and I would always walk away with something, you know, here, have some onions, or, you know, would you like some carrots to take home? They were just so proud of their little tiny plot, you know. So, what are the steps for starting a community garden? So if you're seriously thinking of starting one up, oh yes.
Your community garden, does each person have their own plot and that's theirs?
Yes, that's right.
But how do you share it amongst everyone?
Well, I'll speak to that a little bit down the road. Okay, I'll talk about how those decisions were made. Okay, so so if you are considering starting a community garden, these are the steps that are suggested by Nourish. So if you were to go on their website, the steps would be there. Okay, so the first step is to organize a meeting of the people that are interested. So first of all, determine whether a garden is needed and wanted, and what kind it should be. So do you want a vegetable garden? Do you want fruit trees? Are you going to also have a flower garden? Who it will involve, and the benefits of having a community garden. So at the bottom there is, you know, we had a meeting, and this was a poster that was posted inviting people to come to the meeting. Now, you don't have to follow these steps, you know, in order, because we didn't. I found out through informal conversations with the tenants at Tallwood that you know, they were all interested in a community garden, and so the superintendent put up a flyer on each of the floors by the elevators, and then in all the other 4 buildings, and she also placed them in the mailboxes of the houses that backed onto the community garden. And our poster was translated into Arabic, and Jill, coordinator for Nourish, or for all the community gardens, she also invited an Arabic translator to come to our meetings. So that was pretty cool. So the second step for starting a community garden is to form a planning committee. And it's really important to choose a well-organized person as you know, your coordinator. Our coordinator is the person on the left there. That's Pat. And she was great as our coordinator. It's an important job. And you need to find the right person. And it has to be somebody who can work with others, someone who can, you know, respond to concerns and questions, someone who can plan and coordinate projects, someone who can ensure that the rules are adhered to, someone who can mediate conflicts, and we did have the occasional conflict, someone who can keep records. And we were fortunate, Pat was an accountant by trade, and so she was very good at keeping records.
Was she in the building herself though?
Yes,
Oh,
yes she was. Yep, yep. And then you can form additional committees to tackle specific tasks, you know, and that, at the meeting you can ask, you know, what skills people have or connections they have in the community. Can you think of some skills that you might be looking for with, you know, if you're looking to start a community garden? Skills or jobs that you might want to assign to people or have people volunteer for? Yes?
You might need somebody that could, you know, go to retail businesses and ask if they consider donating
Yep.
shovels, forks, whatever they might need.
Absolutely, yes, yes,
There's jobs in landscaping.
yes, absolutely, yeah, yeah. You might want to have somebody who has some skills in construction, because you're gonna need a shed, you're gonna need a composter, maybe a sun shelter down the road. So if there's somebody on the committee who can do that, that would be very beneficial. Anything else? Yes?
Somebody who can manage the different costs,
Yep,
to manage the ownership or the tenants or whatever.
yep, absolutely, yep. You might need a party planner. You know, at the end of the season, you might want to have a potluck, or just throughout the season, you might want to have social gatherings, so it might be nice to have somebody to organize that. If there are a lot of children in the neighborhood, you might want to have somebody to organize activities for the kids, especially if you have a plot for the kids, you know, so a youth coordinator or something.
Somebody deal with, you have to deal with like the water, like.
I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Certainly you might want to have somebody who maybe has some financial skills, like maybe to be a treasurer or something. And I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Okay. Step number 3, identify all your resources. So contact local municipal planners about possible sites and seek out local resources for information and assistance. Look within your community for people with experience. So below are some of the organizations that helped us. Peterborough Green Up, they were the ones that ran the ecology park, and so we had apple trees in our community garden, and they came from, Peterborough Green Up gave us the apple trees. The Peterborough Pollinators, they came and gave us some plants to have a little flower garden to attract pollinating insects. And then of course Nourish was, I mean, they were so helpful. So what resources do you think you have in your community that could come and give you some assistance?
Parks and Recreation,
Yep.
your city hall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you have greenhouses in your community, you could ask them for free plants. Because we did have a volunteer who worked with a Syrian family, and she happened to work in a greenhouse, and she provided a lot of the tenants with free plants.
You could contact all the housing authorities that run the rent geared to income buildings and see if they would be open to using some of the space that's right there at the housing complex.
That's correct, yeah, yeah. If there's a horticultural society, you could ask for their assistance. Shop classes in the high schools, you know, whether it's at the college or the high schools, they could come and help you build a compost. Like if you don't have anybody with construction skills, you could go to them and get them to help you, you know, if you need to build anything, a picnic table or whatever. Our compost heap was just a heap in the beginning, but this year, the father and 2 sons of our family built a proper composter, and it was made with pallets that somebody donated, so it was free. Yep.
I was going to say, this summer at the CNE, they had in their building with horticulture, and they were showing how many different ways you could do a garden, and they used pallets, but they didn't use it for their composting. They actually stood them upright, put in the fabric, and put dirt into the fabric, and the plants were growing up and over all these skids, which was really kind of cool, because you
Wow.
had slats here, so you could have like 3 levels of gardening happening, and they were just upright, and the dirt was like, between 4 inches or whatever.
I've
space
never
it was.
seen that before, that's so
It was cool. They actually had a number of things, growing gardens out of water bottles. They
Yeah.
just hollowed out the top and filled it with dirt, and cucumbers were hanging off them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it was amazing what they were able to utilize that we just toss out,
Yes.
and they filled with dirt and grew plants.
Oh, that's so cool. I bet you if you Google that, that would be really interesting. Wow.
You could contact like Home Depot
Yep.
and collaborate with them. They might donate both the resources, like human resources and
Yep.
financial.
You could also have like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts come and help, with the digging of the soil initially to get it ready. Especially if you have a lot of seniors and they can't do that. So you need to be creative, but again, you'll need somebody on your committee to look after that, to investigate what's available out in the community. So this is the picture in the middle is the sign that we have posted by our garden, and I'm sorry it's not clear, but it's in Arabic and in English. And the photos all around, that's our group planting the pollinators garden with the help of the members of that group. And the 2 apple trees were at either end. Okay, so step number 4 is identifying your resources. So, try and find businesses, groups, or organizations that might donate or promote the garden. Some gardens self-support through plot fees, but for many, a sponsor, provides an essential source of funding for gardens. For us, I belong to St. Alphonsus Parish, and I went to our conference, St. Vincent de Paul, and asked them for money to put towards the community garden. And they were very gracious. They gave us money, and with that money, we bought tools and a water cistern for the garden. So that was the first year. The second year, they gave us money to buy a new shed. The photo on the left is a shed that was donated, for possible pollutants. And if the ground isn't good enough, then you might have to have the raised beds. We were very fortunate because it was city-owned land. We knew that it wasn't, for possible pollutants. And if the ground isn't good enough, then you might have to have the raised beds. We were very fortunate because it was city-owned land. We knew that it wasn't polluted, so we didn't have to go through the soil testing. And it's important to find out who owns the land so that you can get permission. And the location of your garden is very important. The majority of the people that use the community gardens in Peterborough, they don't have access to land, so that's why they want a garden plot. So you always have to, the location needs to be close to where they are. Is it, and if it's not close to where they are they close to a bus stop? And we were so fortunate, right next to our garden there was a bus stop. In Peterborough, you don't necessarily have to live in that neighborhood to have a plot in that garden. Usually if somebody wants a plot, they go to the city, and the city puts them in touch with Jill, and their name goes in a waiting list.